What am I doing? Picking weeds. Actually, they're not really weeds. I was asked one time about my thoughts on the carnivore diet, and I said it made sense 3 months, or I'm sorry, 6 months out of the year. But I'll show you why it doesn't quite make sense the other time. It has to do with these. And before I weed whack, I wanted to pick some stuff that I could actually eat with my dinner. I've got a deer shoulder that I'm going to make 2 flat iron steaks out of, and then maybe some sandwich meat. But let me show you what I'm picking. This is another caution. First thing is buy yourself a decent book. Second thing is you need to test your systems with all this. Lots of stuff here is edible. Actually, this weed right here, that's I call it Jap weed, but I think it's Japanese knotweed. You can actually take that, cut it, and it makes something similar to a celery. All right, similar. Nothing that you pick tastes the same as farm vegetables. And what I picked here, the common name or the generic name for it is called Healol. And I'll show you how I prep those. I'm not going to pick any of that knotweed I have here before, but there's knotweed, there's nettle. Here's kind of what the Healol, that's a big plant, but that's what it looks like grown out. There's what it looks like when you'll find it normal. Of course, there's the knotweed. That actually, you can pick that to your heart's content. It's invasive. There's some wood sorrel. You can eat that. You can eat that wood sorrel. I usually make that into a salad, as well as the Healol. Nettle, dandelion, plantain. There's some plantain. You can eat that. There's another plantain. The plant obviously has vitamins, minerals, fiber, but those seeds have proteins in them. I hate to sound romantic, but all this stuff was put here and has a purpose. And it's crazy how little of this, like, I mean, you want to talk about clean eating, you get a spike out of this stuff. You'll see what else I picked up here. That's the pile of it. I got to pick through it and groom it and prep it. There's a bunch of plantain. There's some wood sorrel. And then, of course, the old standard dandelion. I got fond memories of that. I remember watching my grandma bent over in the yard picking dandelions for salad. I do have to weed whack, unfortunately. I've even got strawberries going here. There's one right there. And those aren't ripe yet. I already ate one or two. There's another one. There's some more of the Healol. There's a bunch of stuff around here that if you start to learn it, one plant at a time, you can eat it. This is why I don't like weed whacking. If it weren't regulated, I wouldn't. Hopefully you can see that. There's that bee who no longer has Healol to get anything off of, because that little machine there. It sounds stupid, but once you start getting involved in the woods, you see things differently. Imagine what happens when you clear land and everything for building. There's another bee coming in, trying to find something now. You know, a salamander too. I can't watch everything, but there's a salamander that was hiding underneath. I mean, this is just in 1 square foot. A fly, a salamander, and two bees, native pollinators, whose habitat got disrupted because I just weed whacked. I mean, I laugh about it, but that's because sometimes for the sake of beauty, we ruin the beauty. Well, even a daddy longleg who's now trying to find a place to go. I don't know. The beaver does it, and humans do it. Change the habitat. Over there, you might see him fluttering around. But he was in the same square foot that I showed you earlier as a butterfly. I don't know why. I'm actually wrestling with the idea. Yeah, there's another culprit. Gas. It's not that we can't live without. It's not that we can't live without influence, but it does pay to know how much we influence. The irony. You know, I don't want to get too weird, but, you know, I fought for those colors, for what I thought was right. I still think it is. It's one of the only places in the world where some of this stuff is talked about and thought about. But for what? At the cost of a square foot? I don't know. I don't have any answers. I have laws and rules I gotta follow. It's required to clear it for fire hazard. But it does make you think about the little things when you stop and think. Sometimes I think too much. Here's that deer shoulder I'm going to make some flat irons out of. I don't have my boning knife, so I'm going to use a fillet knife. That, of course, those weeds I picked earlier. I guess I'll just tell you because I can't video it by myself. I'm going to cut out those flat irons for tonight, and then much of that rest of that shoulder I'm going to cut into, I call them juliennes, but strips. Basically, I can fry up and make a sandwich, cheese and meat sandwich out of. That stuff's for dinner. Once you boil what's going to be greens and clean what's going to be salad, there ain't a whole lot left, but I might show that later on. All right, with the magic of camera, I had this thing oriented. It's flopping everywhere now without structure. I had it oriented like that when I last showed it to you. Okay, in the middle here there's a ridge bone on the side of the shoulder bone that's facing outward. So what you do is you flip it over, make a slice down the middle, and then you start peeling it back with just the tip of your knife. And again, a fillet knife works fine if you don't have a boning knife. It's a little more flexible, a little bit less control, but it works. You can peel it back, and then you expose the edge of this shoulder blade. From there you start working down to that ridge bone, peeling it back. Now if I had the rest of the leg, I could hold down on that leg and just with my hands peel this bone out. Might have to help it some with the boning knife. I didn't have that, so you end up working it out with a fillet knife, pulling and tugging what you can, but you end up with a fairly clean bone. There's some meat left on there. That'll go to the coyotes, probably. Then the back side of this, I'll take this blue skin off and I'll strip it out, and that's what I'll make my sandwich meat out of for this afternoon. But inside, on the opposite side, this is where the flat irons lay. Okay, 2 flat irons. This one's a normal size. This one here, I mutilated when I was trying to get the silver skin that separates the two off. Now I could trim it up and make it pretty, but this is me. I know what it is. It's just gonna go in there for tonight. I could take and separate that chunk of meat, and that would be from the smaller side, the shorter side, this side of the shoulder. I could take and separate that. They called this the poor man's fillet. I could cut that and make it look like fillet, tenderloin, but it doesn't cook like tenderloin. It takes slower and longer to cook it. Because of that, I'm just going to separate it, seam it, get the silver skin off of it, and dice it up. It is good that way. Small portions diced up. And again, that came from that side of the shoulder. Okay. The flat irons came from this side. And that's what they look like once you get them prepped. This is from the back side of the shoulder blade. I'm just going to take it and clean it, prep it, cut it into strips or cubes, and then move on with my life. There's that poor man's fillet I was telling you about. And I could take that, see if I can do this one-handed, and cut it and flip it open. And that is hard to tell the difference between a tenderloin or a fillet and that cut. But this one does not cook. Nope. Anyways, that one does not cook like regular fillet. There's the job done. I cubed everything, fairly thin slice. There's the 2 flat irons. There would be trim. I could trim it up some more, get all that blue skin off there, and make ground meat out of it. And there's the shoulder bone. So I got time to wait. I'm freaking hungry. A little bit of rust in my pan. Maybe a lot of it. A lot of it. I gotta wipe that sucker out. That ain't butter burning. That's a cast iron pan in a human camp. Oy, oy, oy. Oh, you son of a bitch. Come on. I went for all the argument I had with the salt shaker. Turned out perfect. There we go. Pretty much done. About all it takes. A couple minutes. There's still leftovers from home. Leftover buns, leftover cheese, leftover butter. And obviously you can see I can eat pretty simple. 2 hoagies out of half that meat I had in there. At least the dice shit. Alright, here's most of the weeds that I've picked. I'm going to go through and start grooming them basically. I'm going to separate them into 2 bins. These bins are just from the cabin. I'm going to have one that I'm going to cook and another one's going to make salads. All I'm going to do is wash and pull and pluck. This is only an initial wash. I'll go back up to the camp to where I've got a cleaner water. These are dandelions. They're going to go in both bins actually. But I should have tasted it. Sometimes dandelions can get pretty bitter depending on the timing. I'll make a salad. They're not too bad. My grandma used to test them by seeing how much milk they produced in their stem, and if they had a bunch, she would tell you that they would be bitter. This in my hand, I think I'm going to boil down. Part of the reason these need so much cleaning is I picked them pretty close to the ground. If you're looking at a stem of this, I can't get it to fluff out, but you know, once you get down towards the woody section, it's not so great. So, cut them off. For stemmy. Wood sorrel, it's this stuff. The best part on it is the leaves. You know, as you clean them, you might get some stems, but whatever. Here's why what looks like a big handful ain't much. I mean, that was a pretty good chunk of wood sorrel and there ain't much left of it. Another example. That's what's on it. But that's about what you get off of half of what I showed you. There's a romantic view, and I have it myself. Like, it'd be nice to just scratch out a place to live and then go do things that I enjoy. Truth is, when you read history books, you spend most of your day just getting food. This is the plantain. I'm going to boil this. Basically make like a greens, and then the seeds you can just run down and strip, and I boil them down as well. If they come off easy, they're ready to come off. If they don't, see how I'm leaving some on the tips? I don't fight it, or I'm not going to fight it. And even by throwing the waste to the side there, I'm kind of doing something natural, and you can reseed. But people get a romantic view, like, oh, it'd be cool to live off the land. Maybe, right? But when I think about it romantically, I always forget that all the history books and stuff that I've read about, you know, spend most of your day doing stuff like this just to eat, and then on top of that, just like all the other wild animals, there's periods of starvation. Who the hell wants to go through that? Most of this stuff, I don't know, just brings you back, I guess. Let you know you could if you had to. Thankful that you don't. This is the heel all. This plant actually, this heel all, kind of crazy all the stuff it gives, or the benefits to it. There's actually, I was reading, oh, by the way, if you get to where you want to pick stuff, get yourself a good book. There's a part of this that they'll extract anti-HIV drugs and stuff. They've studied this plant fairly extensive. The natives used to use it for all types of stuff. Anything that basically needed healed, from a sore throat to whatever else. Oh, speaking of which, I'm going to save some of these to make a tea. Never done that before, but I'm going to try. I'm not big into teas, although I have made white pine tea before. I was out, so this is another caution. First thing is, buy yourself a decent book. Second thing is, you need to test your systems with all this. I went out picking fiddleheads. I don't pick them anymore, but I went out picking fiddleheads one spring when I was turkey hunting, and I picked kind of like a grocery bag of them, knowing that I would boil them and they'd cook down. I ate those things. One thing they do very well is clean you out. I ended up making, every 30 minutes I was making a trip to the outhouse. And I wanted to go hunting. I went once I was done. And I passed by this white pine. And I remember reading at one point, white pine into a tea will like settle your gut. And while I was out hunting, I still needed my gut settled. So I took a small branch of white pine, brought it back, boiled some water, threw those chopped the needles up, threw them in the water, and made a tea out of it. And I don't know if I was just over the sickness, the gut distress, or if it was the white pine that did it. But literally half an hour after I did that, I didn't have any issues with my gut anymore. Nuts. So what I'm saying is, it's good to know these do have a lot of stuff naturally grown, so the plant fought and absorbed everything it needs to take root without being sprayed and fertilized and everything else. And if you pick it from a clean place, you get the same stuff out of it. But it takes a little bit to get what you want. I doubt I'll show it to you, but the stuff that I'm boiling, I'll blanch it, drain it, and then continue to boil it. And most of this stuff, you make greens, some fat in them helps, so diced up bacon or something like that. I don't know if bear fat would work very well. E-bikes. Stands for easy. Be so cynical. Okay, here it is laid out. Flat irons. Showed you those earlier. These are the greens I'm going to use for salad. There's sorrel, heel all, and dandelions in there. And I think all I'm going to do is olive oil and butter, and then salt them. Maybe some pepper too. I'd like some fat or honey or sugar or something to sweeten it, but I don't have it. So, the heck with it. Right here, that's all the plantain, the heel, plantain seeds, and dandelion. I'm going to boil these first just because they're a little rougher. They're not as tender in the first boiling. And that, actually, probably all three of those. Let it boil for a while, then I'll throw in the heel. I'm going to drain it and throw it in again. But that'll make my greens, and then in that I'm going to just, again, I don't have anything else but olive oil, butter, and some salt on those. Again, this would be good with some type of fat. Usually chopped up bacon fat's what I'll put in it. So, and then just waiting now for that to cook down, and I finally seasoned my pan properly. This thing was an abomination. Oh, this is rather humorous. Then again, not. I had a buddy stop in and we were bullshitting. Obviously for quite a while. Fire burnt down, the pot tilted over, and these are my boiled greens now. That sucks. I tried to eat them burnt. They're okay. I'm not gonna eat a bunch of them. I'll tell you that much. They ain't like dried seaweed. So I'll rearrange my coals. Get my pan on there. Damn it. That sucks. At least we had good conversation, I guess. Oh well. Get this heated up with oil and fry my steaks, and it'll be fried flat irons and greens. Hopefully with oil and butter, if I don't screw that up. Jimmy. There's a properly seasoned cast iron instead of the one that was here before. Probably going to give me tetanus, but I got my shots. That's where I'll sear. This is where I'll cook. You can probably hear that, right? A lot nicer when your pan's properly seasoned. Case and butter. Pretty disappointed about them greens. Well, that ain't much. Yeah, why don't we? Rest. Rest. Look at that first one. He thinks it might be perfect. That's the end of it, though. I'll clean up, wipe out that pan, let it season some more. Can't have it looking like that. Maybe like that. Yeah. That ain't so bad. Maybe. We'll see. I ain't gonna let you watch me eat. I hate videos that do that. So, right in your face. That sucks. But I'll let you know. Flat irons are well done. Even that little bit of a time was too much. But it got a lot of flavor. Those are freaking good. Now the greens, see if they're bitter. Basically, it's a salad with olive oil and some butter. Ain't bad. Nice to have some vinegar for the salad. You have to take my word for it, and I ain't gonna make you watch it.